Return from the Abyss, Book 1.
Chapter 9: The Shadow Wolf and the Awakening of Crimson. The contract board in the Fulcrum Guild had exactly 3 Class D missions posted when Caden arrived that morning. 2 were escort contracts, boring, low risk, paid poorly. The third made him pause. Shadow Wolf, Shadow Needle Forest, Class D threat. Last seen, Eastern Sector near Darkwater Creek. Reward 15 gold pieces. Warning: creature has killed 2 E-rank hunters. Approach with caution. Caden pulled the parchment from the board, studying the crude sketch at the bottom. Large, fast, dangerous. The same wolf Myris Group had been tracking when they'd found him 3 weeks ago. The same one they'd abandoned to take him back to the city. "That's suicide," a voice said behind him. Caden turned to find Fen adjusting his perpetually smudged glasses, a wooden staff nearly as tall as he was clutched in one hand. The young mage had finally saved enough to commission it from Bargair, simple oak wrapped with copper wire, but it helped him channel viral more efficiently. Not that more efficiently meant much when your baseline power was barely functional. "It's Class D," Caden said. "Same as the Shadow Wolf from before." "Exactly!" Fen's voice climbed half an octave. "The one that's already killed 2 hunters? Caden, you're F rank. I'm barely E rank. This is 15 gold." Caden's tone was flat, factual. "Split 3 ways, that's 5 each. I need the money." For what, he didn't specify. The truth was simpler and more complicated than mere currency. He needed the challenge, needed to test himself against something that matched the threats he'd survived in the Abyss. The giant rat had been nothing, the goblins less than nothing. Even Brutus, for all his size and regeneration, had been predictable once the Crimson awakened. But that 30-second burst of power, that glimpse of what the shard had truly done to him, had left him hungry for more. Hungry to understand what he'd become. 3 ways? Fen blinked. "Who's the third?" "Me." Nara's voice cut through the Guildhall's ambient noise like her axe through flesh. The tall warrior emerged from the crowd, her signature 2-handed axe resting on her shoulder, a grin splitting her scarred face. "Heard you 2 idiots talking about taking on a Class D solo. Figured I'd better tag along before you get yourselves killed." "We're not idiots," Fen protested weakly. "You're about to hunt a shadow wolf that's already killed 2 experienced hunters," Nara said. "That's the definition of idiotic. But," her grin widened, "it's also the most interesting contract on that board. I'm in. When do we leave?" Caden looked at the contract again, noting the detail about the wolf being most active at night. "Sunset. We hunted in the dark." "Of course we do," Fen muttered, but he was already nodding. "I'll bring extra healing supplies, and maybe some light crystals. Shadow wolves hate bright light, right?" "According to the books," Nara confirmed. "Though books and reality don't always match." She clapped Caden on the shoulder hard enough to most people stagger. He didn't move. "This is going to be fun. Meet at the East Gate 2 hours before sunset. And Caden, bring that fancy new sword of yours. We're going to need it." Shadow Needle Forest looked different at night. The towering conifers that seemed merely impressive in daylight became oppressive columns of darkness after sunset, their branches forming a canopy so thick that moonlight struggled to penetrate. The undergrowth rustled with the movement of nocturnal creatures, most harmless, some decidedly not. Every sound seemed amplified in the dark, every shadow deeper. Caden's enhanced senses, honed by a decade in the Abyss's perpetual twilight, adapted quickly. His vision sharpened, pulling detail from darkness that would have left others blind. His hearing isolated individual sounds, the scurry of a mouse 40 meters left, the hoot of an owl overhead, the distant gurgle of Darkwater Creek marking their destination. Beside him, Nara moved with surprising stealth for someone carrying 20 kilos of axe and armor. She'd done this before, her movements practiced, efficient. On his other side, Fen was less graceful. The young mage's staff caught on branches twice, and his breathing was audible even when he tried to quiet it. But he kept up, determined despite obvious fear. "Contact," Caden said quietly, raising a fist. Both hunters froze. "Where?" Nara's voice was barely a whisper. Caden pointed northeast, toward the creek. Tracks, fresh, leading to water. They crept forward, weapons ready. The tracks were clear once you knew where to look. Massive paw prints, each as large as Caden's hand, pressed deep into soft earth. The stride was long, indicating size and speed. But what made Caden's jaw tighten was the edges of the prints. They were blurred, indistinct, as if the creature that made them had been partially insubstantial even while walking. Shadow phase, he thought, remembering the reference materials Fen had made him read. The wolf could partially dissolve into shadow. Not fully, not like the shadow devourers from the abyss, but enough to avoid solid strikes. There. Nara's whisper was tight with tension. The shadow wolf stood at the creek's edge, drinking. Even on all fours, it was massive, easily 2 meters at the shoulder, longer than a wagon from nose to tail. Its fur seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, creating an aura of darkness that made its exact outline hard to determine. Only its eyes were clear, 2 crimson coals burning in the night, turning now toward them. It had sensed them, known they were there, been waiting. "Positions," Nara hissed, not taking her eyes off the wolf. "Caden, left flank. Fen, back line. I draw aggro." The wolf moved. Not charged, moved. One moment it was 30 meters away at the creek. The next, it was 10 meters closer, its body blurring through the intervening space like smoke on wind. No sound, no warning. "Contact!" Nara roared, bringing her axe up in a defensive guard. The wolf hit her like an avalanche. Its weight, easily 200 kilos of muscle and fury, crashed into Nara's raised axe, driving her backward 3 meters. Her boots tore furrows in the earth as she fought for purchase. The wolf's jaws snapped, seeking her throat, but Nara twisted, taking the bite on her pauldron. Metal screamed. Teeth longer than fingers punched through steel like parchment. Then the wolf's claws came up, raking across Nara's shoulder where armor met flesh. Blood sprayed black in the moonlight. "Nara!" Fen's staff glowed green as he channeled viral, but the distance was too great, his power too weak. The healing energy dissipated before reaching the wounded warrior. Nara screamed, pain and rage mixed, and swung her axe in a desperate arc. The blade passed through the wolf's shoulder, but the creature had already begun to phase, its body becoming smoke. The axe met minimal resistance, the strike wasted. The wolf solidified behind Nara, jaws open wide. Caden was already moving. Bonefang came up in a diagonal slash aimed at the wolf's exposed throat. The blade was perfection, Bargar's masterwork, bone and steel merged, sharp enough to cut shadows. It should have taken the wolf's head clean off. The creature phased again. Caden's sword passed through dispersing smoke. His momentum carried him forward, off balance for a critical half-second. The wolf solidified beside him, impossibly fast, those crimson eyes locking onto his. "I see you," those eyes seemed to say. "I know what you are." The wolf's claws came around in a backhand swipe that Caden barely saw coming. He twisted, using every ounce of abyss-trained reflexes, but he wasn't fast enough. Not quite. The claws caught him across the left side. Pain exploded through Caden's torso, white-hot agony that stole his breath and turned his vision red at the edges. He felt ribs crack, felt the claws punch through muscle and scrape bone, felt blood, hot and wet, soaking through his shirt. He hit the ground hard, his sword tumbling from nerveless fingers. The world spun, refused to focus. Somewhere distant, Fen was screaming his name. Somewhere closer, Nara was cursing, trying to get back into position. But all Caden could see was the wolf. It stood over him, smoke fur rippling, crimson eyes burning with predatory satisfaction. It knew he was down, knew he was wounded, knew this was the kill. The wolf's jaws opened wide, wide enough to engulf his entire head, and lunged downward. Something inside Caden shattered. Not his body, that was already broken, ribs cracked, organs bleeding. No, what shattered was deeper than flesh or thought. The dam broke. The scar on Caden's right palm erupted in scarlet light so bright that turned night to blood-red day. Light that burned, that sang, that screamed with the voices of 1,000 dead souls. The cracked star pattern expanded, veins of crimson energy racing up his arm, across his chest, down his legs. His entire body became a roadmap of scarlet luminescence, every vein and artery highlighted like lightning frozen beneath skin. The pain in his side transformed. It didn't disappear, that would have been mercy, and this was not mercy. Instead, the agony changed frequency, shifted texture, became fuel, became fire, became something hot and intoxicating and utterly addictive that burned away everything else. Fear, doubt, hesitation, control, gone. All of it gone, consumed in the inferno of awakening crimson. Caden felt emotions he'd forgotten existed. Rage, not the cold, calculated violence of survival, but hot, primal fury that demanded blood and bone and screaming. Bloodlust, the pure, undiluted desire to tear, to rend, to destroy. Joy, vicious, terrible joy in the simple act of violence. For 10 years, he'd kept himself contained, kept his emotions locked down, because feeling meant weakness, and weakness meant death. He'd survived by becoming a machine, efficient and emotionless. Now, the machine was burning. And gods, it felt good. The wolf's jaws closed around empty air. Caden's hand, his bare hand, caught the wolf's lower jaw. Crimson didn't just strengthen muscle, it bit into essence, anchoring shadow to flesh. His other hand seized the upper jaw. The wolf tried to bite down. Its jaw muscles were powerful enough to crush stone, to snap steel. Caden's hands didn't budge. No, he heard himself say, and his voice was wrong, layered with something that resonated, that carried weight beyond mere sound. My turn. He pulled. The wolf's eyes widened in shock as impossible strength manifested in human flesh. Caden's arms, corded with muscle, but still fundamentally human in proportion, exerted force that defied physics, defied sanity. Bone cracked. Louder. The wolf thrashed, trying to pull away, its body beginning to phase. But Caden's grip was absolute. His hands seemed to hold the creature's essence itself, preventing the dissolution into shadow. Cartilage tore, tendons snapped. The wolf's shriek was unlike anything that should come from a living throat, high and broken and full of agony that transcended species. Caden ripped the wolf's jaws apart. Not severed, not cut, ripped. Physically tore the mandible from the maxilla with brute, overwhelming force that treated bone like wet parchment. Blood, darker than any natural creature's, tinged with shadow, fountained from the ruined maw. Teeth, torn loose from shattered bone, scattered like dice across blood-soaked earth. The wolf collapsed backward, its body no longer even attempting to phase. Every instinct now focused solely on the impossible reality that something had just torn its fucking jaw apart with bare hands. Caden rose. His wound was still there. He could feel it, ribs broken, organs damaged. But it didn't matter. The crimson burned so hot that pain became irrelevant, became background noise beneath the symphony of violence singing through his veins. He retrieved Bonefang from where it had fallen. The sword felt light as air in his enhanced grip. Felt right. Felt like it had been forged specifically for this moment. The wolf tried to flee, its body dragging across ground, blood trail marking its path. Survival instinct overriding pride, overriding territory, overriding everything except the primal need to escape. Caden was faster. 10 meters covered in a heartbeat. The sword came down in a perfect vertical arc, all of Bargar's craftsmanship, meeting all of Caden's abyss-learned precision, meeting all of the Crimson's overwhelming power. The blade took the wolf's head off, just behind the ruined jaw. The body collapsed, twitched, went still. The scarlet glow began to fade. Caden felt it leaving, the power, the fire, the emotions, all draining away like water through cupped hands. His legs trembled, threatened to give out. The wound in his side screamed its presence, blood loss suddenly mattering again, pain returning with compound interest. He fell to his knees, gasping, Bonefang planted point first in earth to keep him from collapsing entirely. Holy shit, Nara's voice, distant and hollow. Holy fucking shit, Caden. What was that? Caden couldn't answer. Speech required energy he didn't have. His vision grayed at the edges, consciousness flickering like a guttering candle. Then Fen was there, green light weak but present, flowing from his staff into Caden's side. "Stay awake," the young mage commanded, his voice shaking. "Don't you dare die on me. Stay." Something caught the moonlight, lying in the spreading pool of the wolf's blood. A crystal. Small, maybe the size of a walnut, but pulsing with internal radiance. Scarlet, like crystallized blood, like frozen fire. A shard. Caden reached for it with his scarred right hand. The moment his fingers closed around the crystal, it moved. Not rolled, moved. Pressed against his palm with purpose, with will, seeking the cracked star pattern there. The shard melted into his flesh like snow in sunlight. Power flooded through Caden's body, not the overwhelming tsunami of the full Crimson Awakening, but a steady current of pure energy. He felt his ribs shift, bone knitting, muscle regrowing. Felt the clawed wounds seal from the inside out, flesh weaving itself back together with speed that made Fen's healing look like the slow work of time. In seconds, the injury was gone. Not healed, gone. Not even a scar remained, just unmarked skin and the memory of pain. "That's impossible," Fen whispered, staring. His weak viral still flickered around his staff, now utterly unnecessary. "That's regeneration like that doesn't exist. Even master healers can't work that fast. Even legendary viral users can't." He stopped, swallowed. "What are you?" Caden looked at his hand. The cracked star scar glowed brighter now, pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. The pattern had grown, new fracture lines spreading like frost on glass, creating a more complex geometry. "I don't know," he admitted quietly, honestly. And for the first time since returning from the abyss, that truth didn't terrify him. It excited him.
Thank you for listening. New chapters will be released daily on the channel. This audio material was produced exclusively for the Section 56 channel. All rights reserved. Have a nice day.